So we must do two things, two great things together to encompass that enormous new view that lies before us, but to encompass it within the framework of science, to see it within the whole categorical framework of science, and to see that these two are not separate, but that they are wedded. The bigness of the idea, the newness of the idea, the greatness of it is one with the structure of science, the structure of being itself. Again, we have to see that the place value of revelation is at the end of the Bible. It is at the end of the symbol of the 5,000-year period, that the first 5,000-year periods were, so to say, in place. And the question of what would come next must have been in consciousness. What would be coming in the sixth, in the next development of the spiritual evolution? No one knew that, and it needed to have a prophetic vision to be able to see what that sixth would be. Just as in the 4,000-year period, it was the prophecy of the fifth, wasn't it? The fourth was prophesying what would come in the fifth. Now, how did that prophecy come? It came through those individuals, or that consciousness, which was the highest at its time, the consciousness of the Christ consciousness, the truest, most coincident consciousness with God. Those were the prophets in the 4,000-year period. And here, it's the prophecy of Jesus Christ to John, the highest consciousness at its time, of the 5,000-year period. That could then unseal what would happen in the next age, in the sixth period. And you can see why Mrs. Eddy gives special significance to the 6,000-year period, to the sixth seal, to the opening of the sixth seal. She rather understates everything, though, doesn't she? She's kind of like, by the way, you know, did you happen to notice that something is going on in the sixth seal? How old is Christian Science? As old as God. Gosh darn, you've just stolen my thunder, Richard. Mrs. Eddy says in Prose Works, Christian Science dates beyond Socrates, Leibniz, Berkeley, Darwin, or Huxley. It is as old as God, although its earthly advent is called the Christian era. Elsewhere she says, Christian Science begins with the first commandment of the Hebrew Decalogue, thou shalt have no other gods before me. It goes on in perfect unity with Christ's Sermon on the Mount. And in that age culminates in the revelation of St. John. He's saying it's all Christian Science. The whole thing is Christian Science. The revelation of St. John was the culmination of Christian Science in that age. St. John, who while on earth and in the flesh, like ourselves, beheld a new heaven and a new earth, the spiritual universe, whereof Christian Science now bears testimony. So she goes back, just as the sixth will always go back and gather up everything before it. We'll go right back to the first, the second, the third, the fourth, fifth, sixth, and even embrace the seventh, because the sixth will always have those 7 subtones and will show that it was always truth, that mind was truth, that spirit was truth, that soul, principle, life, truth, and love are truth. And so here she's showing that everything was Christian Science, and that Christian Science is as old as God. Well, that opening of the sixth seal doesn't just end there, but it goes on, and we actually have quite a bit more. We have a structural presentation, a presentation of the diagonal that is found in the sixth day of creation. I don't want to belabor that fact with you. I don't want to get lost in the details of that fact, but to just quickly go through the content of it. It is the sense of Christianity now being lifted higher. In the Word as the Word, it is, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. And so the sense of the calculus now comes in, the effect of this earthquake, or the aftermath, or the result, what follows this earthquake, is the calculus appearing in a new and higher form. 4 angels, the beasts now have become angels, standing on the 4 corners of the earth and holding the 4 winds of the earth, the calculus of spirit. And all the other so-called calculi are rolled up, have been rolled up. They are holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And then a sense of the Christ, another angel ascending from the east. The east always is the symbol of the Christ, having the seal of the living God, cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, saying, "Hurt not the earth, the sea, nor the trees." You see, nothing is hurt. Nothing that is worthwhile is hurt in this great overturning of consciousness, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their forehead. This was a symbol really of identifying everything with that calculus and with God, with the 7 and the 4. And then Christianity, and the number of them that were sealed were 144,000. Of each of the 12 tribes were sealed 12,000. A symbol of the 12 by 12 in multiplication, a great multiplication of demonstration, a great demonstration coming out at the point of Christianity, a great multitude which no man could number. So that apparently not just the 144,000 were there, which represented the seed within itself of those 12 tribes, but a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations. You see now how the sixth begins to gather in all. Did we see that? What was that we saw yesterday about the development of those 7,000-year periods, that with the 6th and with the 7,000-year period, that which looked like it was an individual development at the beginning, those 1,000-year periods beginning with a tribal sense, belonging first to the Jewish line and then to the Judeo-Christian line, now opens up, that in the 6th and the 7th it is seen that the whole system of consciousness has been catalyzed, has been changed, has been affected. And so everything is touched, is covered, is leavened by truth. And so it's a great multitude which no man could number, because it's all, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongue, stood before the throne. Everyone now standing before that principle, everyone to have one principle. Isn't this what Christian Science makes possible? The science of the Christ makes that possible. Jesus alone couldn't do that. The 5,000-year period alone couldn't do that. Stood before the throne, before principle or before the Word, and before the Lamb, before the Christ, clothed with white robes. You see, having the garment of truth on, those white garments, the garment always being a symbol for consciousness, white for the full reflection of consciousness, the calculus of ideas. All saying, salvation to God and to the Lamb. Salvation to the Word and to the Christ. Salvation, how does Mrs. Eddy define salvation? As life, truth, and love understood. Understood. Not life, truth, and love believed in, or life, truth, and love having faith in life, truth, and love, but understood and demonstrated. Understood and demonstrated Christianity as supreme Christianity over all Christianity, sin, sickness, and death destroyed. And then science. The same thing now coming out as we had in the vision of the enthroned one, the first vision of principle. And all the angels stood round about the throne. It's the same vision, but on a higher standpoint, a higher level, a higher adoration of that principle. Christian Science gives us the higher adoration of that principle. All the angels stood round about the throne, the elders and the 4 beasts. They fell before the throne and worshipped God. Worshipped God, saying, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto God forever and ever and ever. Isn't that what we feel the moment we touch the deep significance of Christian Science? You ever have that experience where you come back to your first love and you are rekindled with the meaning of Christian Science? It's this, of falling before that throne and saying blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto God forever and ever for this. And then, what are they which are arrayed in white robes? And so you get a picture of what the idea is of that principle, or we might say what man is, what is the idea of the principle. And it's through 7 tones there. First, thou knowest, mind. They which came out of great tribulation, spirit, and washed their robes white in the blood of the Lamb, soul. They serve God day and night in his temple, principle. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, life. The Lamb in the midst of the throne shall feed them and lead them, truth. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, love. Isn't that beautiful? And so that is the sixth seal. We have to keep this sixth seal in mind, as it will begin to relate to other things. We've already seen that it relates directly to the textbook, that Mrs. Eddy refers to it in connection with her own time. Now we come to the seventh seal, indicative of the 7,000-year period. I will read the seventh seal to you. It's very short, for some reason. The sixth was voluminous. The first five were concise. The first five, okay, we know that. Everyone knows what the first five are. But here's the big picture of the sixth, which is the next one. The seventh, well, the seventh is a little bit further ahead. And also, it may be more to the point. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. That's it. That's it. Silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. Now, we touch that silence in heaven when we touch the model of being. That consciousness of the seven and the four, where error is silenced and all is heaven. This, I feel, is an indication of how the model of being consciousness is depicted in the Bible. How the 5,000-year period consciousness, in its highest sense, begins to perceive what the 7,000-year period consciousness of divine science will be. Silence in heaven. But it only lasted a half an hour because there was much to be worked out, seen through, in the development that remained at that time. But it's a first indication, you see, of what consciousness is like the moment thought accepts the divine infinite calculus, where there is no more argument. It's love, isn't it? That's the point of love, where there is no more argument, where everything has been silenced. But in Revelation, we see that we have now the complete analysis. And so it's a momentary resting at the point of the completion of that analysis. But what remains is the uncovering and the annihilation process. And love's aim, first of all, truth's aim, the third seal of truth, or the third vision of truth, will be to show that uncovering. And the fourth vision of love will be to reveal, to begin to reveal that annihilation and what the spiritualization process brings out as love's final aim. But here we get the first touch. Isn't that beautiful to feel that somehow that 7,000-year period consciousness is being touched? And also, you see, the model of being consciousness too must handle and uncover error, and does handle and uncover error. So we have much, much information here with just a very, very few words. All right, so where are we? We're at the close of the second vision, on the verge of the third vision. Where have we come from? We had the one sitting on the throne in the first vision of principle. It had a book sealed. Those seals are defined in the glossary as the signet of error revealed by truth. So we had the revealing by truth of error's signet, the unlocking of the claim of ignorance and materiality and sensuality and false systems and the whole mortal concept of existence. All focusing then in the sixth seal and being completely overturned, everything being completely overturned, the overturning of the very constituent nature of mortal consciousness, which I feel is really what Mrs. Eddy shows in her sixth chapter, Science, Theology, and Medicine, that was the essence of her discovery, to bring those fundamental constituents of divine consciousness that overturn the whole of mortal consciousness until nothing remains but the seventh, the silence of heaven, the peace and rest of that fulfilled state. Simultaneously with this, the seven trumpets blow. So we have the third vision of truth of those seven trumpets. The moment you analyze correctly, you have the uncovering of the opposite. The moment you analyze what is real, you see what is unreal. And so we have a beautiful sense here now that will come out of the equipollence of God again. An equipollence, a balance between the second and third vision, the vision of analysis and the vision of uncovering, the seven seals and the seven trumpets. Just as we had with the I am and the I am not in the first and second records of creation. So in the seals we had the I am mind, I am spirit, I am soul, principle, life, truth, and love, what God is. And now we are going to see what the I am not is. And we know that this is positive. This is nothing to be afraid of. It comes out of the analysis. It comes out of the heart of that analysis, of truth and love, to uncover that which is not. So truth then is translating the divine to the point of manifestation in the human and stirring up bringing to the surface that which is unlike truth. It's the uncovering of error, and that is presented in the word order. You will hear often the reference to a third part. I think in the previous visions we had one instance of the fourth part. Whenever you have that, the fourth part or the third part, and mainly it will be the third part, it's an indication to the counterfeit. This will always indicate the counterfeit. And so we have those 7 trumpets. The first trumpet of mind, being the first angel, the trumpets sound, they're being sounded by 7 angels. 7 angels. And when we come to the 6th trumpet, then we will have that 6th angel as another mighty angel come down. Another mighty angel came down. And it will be at that point that we see that Mrs. Eddy begins her chapter, Apocalypse. So she doesn't bother with the first 5 angels or trumpets. She's always concerned with the 6th, and we'll see increasingly with the 7th tone. She's always concerned with truth and with love. And so she will skip. I don't like that term skip because it doesn't sound very scientific. But she leaves the first 9 chapters to Revelation, to St. John. And she picks up the story with the 10th chapter, which makes it very difficult to explain to someone how her chapter, Apocalypse, can be an exegesis of Revelation if she does not address herself to those first chapters. But we'll see that she must do this, that she is being true to her own mission, that she is accentuating everything that prophesies her own mission and bringing it into absolute clarity and focus. All right, this afternoon we will take that third vision of truth.